Hi, I'm Mick Berry. Welcome to the 3 Minute Therapy Podcast. This is based on rational motive behavior therapy, which is the original form of cognitive behavior therapy, started in the early 1950s by Albert Ellis, who reshaped therapy to what we know it to be today. He practiced Freudian therapy, found it incredibly ineffective, and decided to, rather than abandon his life as a therapist, to reconstruct therapy in a way that it would be helpful to people. Rational motive behavior therapy states that the way we feel is influenced by how we think, and our behavior is influenced by both of them, and that by learning to think rationally, which is also, fortunately, learning to think realistically, we are able to diminish and extinguish our tendency or experience of getting depressed or anxious or angry. It's a way to reconstruct our irrational thoughts into rational thoughts so that we're leading a mentally healthy life, and so that our behavior and thinking and emotions are largely self-helping rather than self-defeating. Michael, is there something else you want to add to that?
A few things. That was Mick Berry speaking, who's the co-host for 3 Minute Therapy Podcast, which you can find us weekly. And I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein, clinical psychologist and author of 3 Minute Therapy. Also, I wanted to mention about REBT. It's a smarter, kinder therapy. It's smarter because it gets to the root of your emotional problems, your demand, your must, your should, which creates emotional problems. And it's kinder because it teaches you to be your own therapist. Once you learn the approach, you can do it on yourself with your own anxiety, depression, and anger, as Mick and I do with ourselves. And you're not dependent on a therapist for years. You become your own therapist.
Okay, so today's topic is REBT and the irrationality of I can't stand it. When we're having anxiety in a situation, often the thought that we're having is, I can't stand this situation. It must be different. I cannot possibly live under these circumstances. And unfortunately, some people believe that to the point where it gets so extreme in self-defeating behavior that they commit suicide. But there are much more minor manifestations of believing I can't stand it, which is simply walking around feeling miserable and not taking care of things which will be helping you. And the irrationality of I can't stand it, if somebody is believing that they cannot stand a situation, they're saying that this is more than they can handle. REBT is a big advocate of semantic precision, being precise in the language we choose. In my own experience with getting rid of this idea that I can't stand a situation, I initially thought, well, I'm going to stand this situation. I can stand it. I'm going to work to stand it. But then Michael Edelstein, I guess, Michael, I can call you my colleague too, huh? Why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Michael Edelstein pointed out, you don't have to do anything to stand it. You're going to be standing it no matter what. And I began to think, what is it that I'm telling myself about the idea that I can't stand something? And that I thought the outcome of that would simply be, in my case, just crawling onto a bed and crying incessantly, wrapped in a ball, and not doing anything. Well, even if that happened, I'm not going to explode. I am going to stand the situation. I'm not going to blow apart. I'm not going to disintegrate. And when Michael Edelstein pointed that out to me, I thought, wow, I don't even have to do anything at all to stand a situation. There is the case of standing something in a way that would be much better for me, such as not being disturbed by it to a great deal and not being incapacitated in my behavior to try to achieve the things that I want to achieve. But even if I am not getting anything done and just depressed and lying in bed, I'm still standing the situation. I'm just not standing in a way that's very self-helping. So, and I'm standing in a self-defeating way. So when Michael pointed that out to me, I realized, wow, I don't even have to work to stand a situation. I can do a little bit of REBT work to feel better in the situation, but I don't have to work like gangbusters in order to stand a situation. I'm going to stand this no matter what I do. And with that in mind, it became much easier for me to live in situations because I wasn't having to work so hard in order to be in them. And really, in my case, and I think this is the case for most people, if I'm telling myself I can't stand a situation, I've got a situation that I don't like. And I want to change situations that I don't like, but I am going to stand the situation, even if the darn situation never changes. So the idea, I can't stand this, a particular situation, is completely ridiculous. There's nothing truthful about it. I might as well tell myself, I am a bird. I'm not going to be a bird. I'm a human being, and I'm going to stand this situation no matter what happens. So if I am believing I can't stand something, and I'm driving myself crazy with that thought, I'm driving myself crazy with a thought that doesn't exist in the least damn bit. It is complete, how shall I put it? I'm trying not to be profane. It's complete,
Nonsense.
it's complete nonsense. Thank you, Michael. And Michael Edelstein once pointed out to me, and I had a hard time understanding this, but he said, if you're telling yourself you can't stand a situation, you're saying that the situation should be more than 100%, or that the situation is more than 100% bearable. It's more than is bearable, but the truth is, I'm going to bear it, and it can never be more than I can bear. Now, we could take an extreme situation in which someone is in a concentration camp or some horrible situation. I can't stand this situation. Well, even under those circumstances, what somebody is saying is it's more than should be happening. And unfortunately, some situations do happen in life that are exactly what we don't want, and maybe the very last thing we want. But saying that they absolutely must not happen is not true. Life can give us situations and circumstances that are absolutely not what we want and go against what we want entirely, but that possibility still exists. And if we're saying I can't, this situation must not exist, it's more than I can stand, we are not basing ourselves in reality, we're not basing our thinking in reality. And the good news is, if I can remember that every situation can exist, no matter how much I don't like it, I'm at least going to not emotionally disturb myself. So, Michael, your turn.
Yeah. So I learned all these ideas from Albert Ellis, as you mentioned, Mick. And Albert Ellis has written over 80 books. He's no longer alive now, but he's left a legacy of over 80 books and some YouTubes, so you can learn more about this approach from Albert Ellis as well. And I've written 5 books, one with Mick, and the most popular one is called 3-Minute Therapy: Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. Any last words, Mick?
Well, yeah, I was going to say something. I think I may have forgotten it now. About, you said you learned these things from Albert Ellis. It completely escapes my mind at this point what I was going to
But
say.
you can stand forgetting what you wanted to say.
Yeah, I can. I'd like to remember it though, because it was fairly insightful.
Yeah. So even though you can stand it, it doesn't mean that it's okay. It's not okay, and you'd like to do better.
Yeah, good point. And I remembered it, and then as you mentioned that, I forgot it again. I think I can remember it. The 80 books that he wrote, I once heard somebody say about Albert Ellis, he found out a perfect formula for being so prolific: self-plagiarism. All these books are about the same thing. It's about getting rid of your demand. And I've heard people on stage, as I mentioned here before, say to them, it's that simple. And he'd say, it's simple, but it's not easy. We're talking about the same thing every podcast. We're talking about getting rid of your demands. And it takes practice, practice, practice. And I still practice it throughout the day. As human beings, we are fallible. We are innately self-defeating, but the good news is by practice we can be less self-defeating. So this concept is a simple concept. Everybody can understand it, but it takes practice to implement it repeatedly. So we push ourselves to think and behave rationally.
Another reason Dr. Ellis gave for writing so many books was non-perfectionism. He wasn't perfectionistic about it. He just wrote one draft and that was it. And so that's also helpful. And I think we've had podcasts on perfectionism as well. Mick?
Right, right. Well, I also will say that Albert Ellis was in a position where he published a few books that worked. So he had a publisher that gave him carte blanche, and he would just send in one draft and say, "You edit it, I'm done." So he was in a position where he could do that. So most of us need to have greater care in trying to get something to be perfect, but not demanding that it be perfect.
Great, great. Okay, I'd like to, again, I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein. I'm here with Mick Berry every week. And as you can tell, Mick is an expert in rational emotive behavior therapy. And thank you, Chris Rossini, our tech engineer. Give us a thumbs up if you found this valuable. And comment below if you have any questions or comments, suggest subjects you'd like us to discuss. Volunteer if you'd like to be a guest. We haven't had a guest in quite a while. And subscribe to the 3 Minute Therapy podcast to do what, Mick?
To stay on the rational side of life.